I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call vote. Councilmember Compton.
Here.
Emily Baker.
Here.
Farrell. Here. Happy.
Excuse me.
Butch, can you hear us? Don't think he can.
Got a lot of feedback, Butch. Yeah, you sound like a muffled robot.
Mayor Fallon.
Yeah.
Okay. Any additional or amendments to the agenda? We do have two amendments to action items, like to add E and F. We have the museum and the Canoe Club, who would both like to ask for funds this evening for projects that you're doing.
Would that be under 5?
Yeah.
5, yeah, we'll do E and F.
Gorge, Canoe, E, Museum, F.
Do Janice wanted to go first?
Okay.
Said she asked first. There you go, Janice, you asked first.
I have
To go first. Side in. So Janice would be E and Canoe Club would be F. Okay. Any other amendments?
Did you want to talk about Main Street?
Yeah, where do you want to put that?
That could probably be under reports and presentations and
Sure.
a consensus. would be
Yeah.
needed.
So under 7 F Main Street. Okay, any others?
We could probably strike the executive session now.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and strike the executive session this evening. As you can see, we don't have the packet of all the evaluations, so we'll add it to the next meeting. And then that way, Butch and Pete Happy will be here. Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Okay, so I will need an approval to adopt the consent agenda with the amendments.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the amendments.
I second. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Compton.
Aye.
Emily Baker.
Aye.
Farrell.
Aye.
Happy.
Oh, that's right. Thank you.
Keller.
Aye.
Miller.
He's connecting to audio,
Okay.
or was, now it disappeared.
Okay. Please vote.
Mayor Fallon.
Aye. All right, so that passes.
So is that the amendment to the agenda or the consent agenda? Okay.
Well,
With the amendments, I think.
Correct.
it
The
was
consent agenda with the
Okay,
agenda
yeah.
amendments.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Okay, so under 5, you're gonna add E for museum,
Yep.
F is Canoe Club, and then under 7 F would be Main Street. Okay. All right, so public hearing,
No public hearing today.
let's go to action items.
All right, the first item is selection of IT support services provider. I see a request for proposal for IT support services was distributed and open for proposals from April 5th to May 5th. We received 3 bids that were opened and initially reviewed at the May 9th department head meeting. A more in-depth review was completed by the city reporter Woosley and city administrator Bennett. After reviewing proposals, staff felt Radcomp was the only proposal worth bringing in for questions and clarity. City Administrator Bennett and Fire Chief Logan sat down with Radcomp owner Ryan Krebs. I said it right, all right. On Thursday, May 11th, all proposals were reviewed by staff from Hood River County IT Services to ensure proposals covered and met technical side of the city's needs. Scoring details and recommendations are below. There were 6 areas of evaluation on a 1 to 10 scoring system. Experience in local government, ability to provide on-site support in a timely manner, ability to provide remote assistance in a timely manner, proposals, ability to meet the needs of each scope of work, overall quality of proposal, and the price.
Good job on this scoring system, by the way. It made it very easy.
I try, once in a while. So first, experience in local government IT. Radcomp got a 9 out of 10. They've been in business in the Gorge since 2003, contracted IT services with 10 local governments, including utilities, local governments, utilities, and districts in the Gorge. The Port of Cascade Locks is one of their clients. All About IT had a 0. They listed 3 references in their packet. All of them were ginormous corporations based out of like Texas and Indonesia, and just, I mean, not even remotely close to what we were looking for. Soft Sages was better. They got a 7 out of 10. They listed 24 local and state governments, districts, and universities, all of which were much larger. I think the closest one they listed in size comparison was maybe the Seattle Metro Transit System. I mean, they had a couple state, I think, Arkansas or Alabama. So I mean, they have the experience, just not what we're looking for. Ability to provide on-time or on-site support, which is staff, was the biggest kind of point for us, because none of us are IT people at all. Like I can turn the computer on. That's a win. They are here. They're local. They have a technician that lives across the river in Stevenson. They are here all the time. All About IT got a 1 out of 10. The closest office I could find for them was Vancouver, BC. The next closest was California, and then like Southern California. So, and Soft Sages was better. They provided a list of a couple of technicians that helped companies in Beaverton, but I never got a good idea of where those technicians were actually based out of. With the remote system, Radcomp is really the only one that kind of laid out what that after hours remote process, how to even reach them, would work for remote assistance. All About IT, you know, like it says, they listed like a matrix of kind of how they would escalate the issues depending on the time frame. Really made no sense to me. Soft Sages mentions the availability of remote assistance, but does not provide details. Proposal's ability to meet the needs of each scope of work. They all did a fairly decent job of being able to meet our needs. Probably, again, I try not to weigh the fact that they currently are our IT provider in the proposal, but it's hard not to. But they gave the most comprehensive, not really step-by-step, but took each scope of work we had in the proposal and laid out how they would meet it. All About IT and Soft Sages did the same thing, but not in nearly as neat of a process. So it was very easy to read. Overall quality of the proposal, Radcomp, again, they laid everything out and how they would meet what we need. Again, I try not to give them advantage to being here already, but you know, that's the way life is. All About IT made no sense to me. Their proposal was all over the place. I don't know if you guys had a chance to read any of them.
I did.
But I mean, I'm sure in the IT world it made sense, but as somebody looking from the outside in, I could not follow it. It was high level IT stuff that's way above my head. Soft Sages was better. They did the same thing Radcomp did, kind of took each step, laid it out, but again, because they are our current IT people, Radcomp was able to lay it out a little more detail how we get there. The pricing, this is where things get slightly interesting. Radcomp is both the cheapest and the most expensive one. Because, yes, so they get a 2 and a 9. They would charge us $145 an hour for any work on our current system, because our system is junk. The whole thing needs to be ripped out and replaced. So they would charge us per hour. They cannot ensure that because it's so in dire need of replacement, they can't ensure actual proper care of it. Because half the time they're going in there and going, well, what the hell is this? I mean, they don't even know, I mean, they know what they're looking at, but how to properly do it. But if, and this is in the budget proposal as well, we talked about, if we implement their 3 items to get us up to industry standard, the fee would drop down to $2,200 for a flat fee. The rest of them are $2,020 or $2,400 per month plus per on-site service. So in the long run, Radcomp, it would be a flat fee. We would pay $2,200 per month, whether they're here 5 hours or 60 hours in a month. Instead of the other guys where it would be $95 or $65 per hour being on site, assuming we can get them on site. But again, that hinges on council or the budget committee committing to about $47,000 in updates to our IT infrastructure.
When was the last time our IT was updated? You think?
It hasn't. It's been piecemealed together, one piece at a time. It's never, from what I can tell, and Ryan might have a better idea, it's never had like an actual overhaul and updated. I think our newest computer is 5 years old, which in IT world is ancient. My computer is 8 years old. I think your computer is probably 8 years old as well. So we've never had a full update or even an IT system that was up to the standards.
And there has never been a fund that puts money aside or to plan for upgrades.
Well, that's typically what the general fund reserve would be.
And we did put this in our budget this year.
Yes, we did, yeah.
I know that, I've heard citizens say they've had difficulty trying to do things on our old ITs. I mean, it is actually affecting our city ability to serve our citizens, I think, sometimes, because we haven't upgraded. So while I hate big numbers, I see the value of current water.
And part of it also is we have the base level IT insurance policy we can get through CIS, and that's because we have a horrible system. To move any higher up, we have to implement certain security features that we just don't have. Like we moved to Office 365 when they took over a couple weeks ago, and that's the first time we've ever had multi-factor authentication, and it blew the staff's mind. So
The new email, I gotta say, is so much improved. So like hands down.
and we haven't had any server issues since we switched. So, again, I tried to separate current service versus the proposal, but it's pretty much impossible. So I would recommend moving forward with Radcomp, doing the $47,000 updates, and just.
And you've got that in the current budget.
It's in the current budget, yes. The majority of it, I think about 33,000 of it, give or take somewhere, I don't remember the exact number, is paid for out of the general administration reserve fund. The rest of it is split about $3,000 each between sewer, water. There's a couple hundred from EMS because that's all they can afford, and then a couple hundred from tourism.
And would this increase our security?
Oh, yes, I would assume so. I mean, that's what we pay them for, or going to pay them for.
I think especially this day and age, security is probably top of the list. One of the
I don't-
tops.
Yeah, I don't know if you follow it all, but Curry County, Coos County, one of those over there got ransomware about 2 months ago, and they've been struggling for months trying to get systems back online.
Plus, I think, when you look at other city web pages of cities that have been updated IT, you can see the ease, the user ease, used for staff or whether it's
Well,
reporting.
those are the actual website itself and the IT infrastructure are usually separate.
But we are able to do more when we have them.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
A couple questions.
Yeah.
So as long as we agree the upgrades, do we get the 2,200 per month lower charge while the upgrades are happening?
That's one of the questions I asked Ryan when we brought him in, is how that pricing would work. So as long as council commits to that upgrade, they're willing to kind of give us that couple month leeway to get at that price range, because Ryan, you said if we go ahead, the update would take 6 weeks, give or take.
Yeah, exactly. It depends on the supply chain stuff, how fast you guys want to move and stuff, but I would say 6 to 8 weeks is probably a realistic expectation. So,
Okay, and then I know things are always changing, but how long will this last before we have to pay for another upgrade based on your experience?
Do you wanna come up?
Yeah, I'm totally.
How-
If you guys want to,
Might as well,
Yeah,
because that way if everyone has questions.
no, that's great. I'm open.
Can you introduce yourself?
So I'm Ryan, that's Radcomp. I live in the Gorge, White Salmon area. I'm 6th generation here, so I'm here to, stay and stuff, have this business for 20 years. And this is what we focus on, and stuff. Our largest customer is the state of Oregon. So we have about 30 employees or so. And we kind of work throughout Oregon and Washington primarily and stuff like that. So, but yeah, the question for how long would this last? And I would say probably 3 to 5 years. But things are changing, so, and a little bit about your current infrastructures. This is honestly the first time I've ever came into an organization that has more servers than they do employees, which is just very odd. But there's just so many different ways of actually doing IT, right? It's not necessarily wrong, it's just a different strategy and
Right.
stuff like that. So what our approach is to leverage the cloud, like Office 365, and look at the core applications that you guys use and try to minimize the footprint that's here on site. And, use services that are more robust. One of the biggest things, like what you guys called us into, is your email system crashed. And basically there was a public records request on that data on those emails. You guys have no backups of that data and or, to be able to fulfill that need. So that's one of the things we need to look at, is make sure that we're fulfilling your guys' obligation for public records request. Looking at security, your firewalls are old and outdated. And I would say the newest piece of network equipment that I saw on there was probably about 4 years old. And there are some workstations, I believe, that are actually last year. I think you do have, so I'd say there's 25 or maybe a fifth of your guys' workstations are newer in warranty. The rest of your guys' equipment's outdated. So 5 years, things might be a little different. We might not need an on-prem server. Right now, currently, you guys have a couple applications you guys need to run that. Everything's moving more to the cloud, so it might be more of where we just have one little tiny cloud server that we run, and the rest of it's just internet-based stuff. So the next upgrade would probably be quite a bit cheaper, but we don't know what the future holds. So does that answer your question?
Yeah. Jordan, are we gonna need to have staff take classes to learn some of this stuff?
No,
Okay.
so we pay them $2,200 a month.
Yeah, we provide training if people have questions and things like that. And honestly, I think the idea is to really just simplify things, make the end user experience similar. But like Jordan or somebody new that's coming into the organization, the email server, I've never even seen or heard of this. It's something I used to play with, back in the day. But now you guys are on Office 365. Pretty much all organizations use Google Apps or Office 365. And there's a couple other caveats and stuff like that. But the idea is to make it simple, easy. I mean, what you guys are doing is not really rocket science. It's really simple. But that's why if we try to even right now, I'm holding a couple bills and they're like $5,000-6,000 that are like just wasted money. If you ask me, of us just kind of like band-aiding stuff, trying to keep it going. And our plan is to really just rip everything out. And I kind of gave a worst case scenario. There's ways that we could shop, stuff, get stuff that's like refurbished, if you guys feel comfortable with that. My biggest hiccup with that is if you guys have payroll due, or you have billing that needs to go out, I don't want to have a system that will crash or have issues and stuff like that. So I just put it most bang for the buck, and that's where we kind of came up with that number, so.
I do know I had some challenges on my laptop at home and I made a call and I got a call back within like 10 minutes. They sat on the phone with me for about 20 minutes and I'm like, and they're like, just let me do it.
Yeah.
So they went on, fixed everything. 20 minutes, I was up and running. They fixed all my challenges. I know at work, we went with a new IT because simply we couldn't get a hold of them. So I know in business with considering work, when something crashes or something, my whole life is on that laptop. And so I need somebody to fix it quickly. And so we went with that direction. I know, I can say you guys, your response time was incredible. I didn't actually expect a call back so quick, so thank you for that.
Really good staff, that's one thing. I don't do much of that on that side of the house. But we do have a really good group of guys that are doing stuff. The idea is to get it set up correctly. And that's one of the other reasons why we incentivize that package where we get rid of everything else, because you're still, even if we just try to limp this thing along, we can fix it and kind of make it work. But still, your end user experience is not going to be that. And that's one of the things you guys have a hard time retaining staff, all those good stuff. So if we can make it as simple as possible, keep those people happy, that's critical for us,
And there were a couple things that I wanted to learn. I said, can you teach me how to do this? Because then if you walk me through it, I'll get it. And so he was really patient because IT is not my strong suit. So.
Yeah, we have all different people. Like some of our network engineers, I don't want to talk to on the phone because they're really weird. Like I tell that, just computer people are just like,
They're like,
exactly, and so, but we have our front desk guys, they're awesome, so, yeah.
and I did notice on the acceptance, you have Mary Ann Thumb. She's no longer employed.
Okay.
She's retired.
Okay, sounds good. It must have been something in our CRM program.
Right.
Yeah, so.
So we have questions?
Why, is there a means of leasing computers or is that not a thing?
100%, and I do have the option. Usually the lease rate's about 8 to 9%. And so if that's an option you guys want us to look at, we can look at that. But usually municipalities, you guys can get money at 3-4%. And so I didn't even offer that. But if that is an option you guys want to do, I can totally look at that and stuff. These are something called Great America. And sometimes we'll even internally, if we have extra cash, we'll actually do those leases too. So, yeah, it's totally an option.
Did Butch come back on?
He's on there. He just turned his camera off.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you have any questions, comments?
Butch, do you have any questions?
No, I have no questions. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
We can
can.
hear you now.
Okay, I'm on my phone instead of the laptop.
All right, thank you. Much clearer.
Yes.
More question. So the service itself for this 2,200 a month if you do the upgrades. And we're doing Office 365, is that a subscription to monthly? And if so, how much a month is that?
That's great questions, and I can't speak completely to you, but I would say that, depending on what level you guys choose per license, to be, I think you guys have to have an E3 license to meet the compliance, to do the e-discovery stuff. And I think it's like $22 a month per mailbox.
Per mailbox?
Per mailbox, yeah. But they do have an option where you can do like $8 a mailbox and add e-discovery for council members who aren't going to be using your guys' workstations and stuff like that. The price is on Microsoft's website. We're a Microsoft Silver partner, and we just charge the same price that Microsoft does.
Okay.
So, but great question. Yeah, there was another question too, or is that?
No, that's it.
Right.
All right, thoughts? Actions.
I motion to approve and accept the proposal from Radcomp to provide information technology support services for the city of Cascade.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing no discussion, with your roll call vote.
Councilmember Clopton,
Aye.
Emmeline Baker, aye. Farrell,
I,
Kathy,
Excused.
Keller,
Aye.
Miller,
Did we lose him?
No, still there.
want to ask him how he wants to vote.
Butch, how did you want to vote? Oh, now he's gone. Yeah, he just dropped.
Okay, Mayor Bell.
Yes. Okay, so that passes.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ryan, we'll chat tomorrow.
Sounds great. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, it's the very end.
Yep, oh yeah, credits.
All right, so next on the agenda, approval of ordinance 457, mandatory garbage service.
Okay, so at the May 8th council meeting, Administrator Bennett and Jim Winterbottom of Hood River Garbage presented to council, discussed moving the city to use contractor provided garbage containers instead of customer owned garbage containers. Mr. Winterbottom stated the proposed price increase was $7 a month. Council asked City Administrator Bennett to work with Mr. Winterbottom to see if prices could be lowered. Hood River Garbage is willing to lower the increase to $4 a month if the city is willing to extend the contract for 10 years to allow Hood River Garbage ample time to recoup their costs. This is a rolling 10-year contract that renews automatically every year. So essentially, we could, no matter whether it's, a year down the road or 6 years down the road, we can cancel the contract, but there's still 9 years left on the contract. That's got 9 years left. And I mean, we could go out for RFPs, but I really don't know who else would even come out to do it or provide the level of service they are providing.
So we're going from a 5-year to
5 year to 10, yep. The mandatory garbage ordinance submitted for approval has been reviewed and approved by City Attorney Cleveland and has 3 major changes. It's from ordinance 315. First one is section 2I specifically indicates that garbage containers are provided by the collection contractor will be used. This removes any confusion on which cans are or not allowed. The goal was this, that we are using one type of garbage can and not dispute on somebody saying, well, I don't want to use that one. I didn't agree to those $4. Well, too bad. Everybody's using the same garbage can. Section 10 changes that language from a 5-year to a 10-year contract. Section 17 adds an addition of force majeure language. So again, the biggest reason behind this ordinance change is that it's going from privately owned garbage containers to contractor owned containers, and the change from 5 years to 10 years.
Have we ever used a different garbage service?
From what I've been told, we did about 4 or 5 years ago, and it was an absolute disaster.
And before that was just Hood Garbage.
I think so, yeah. I don't know how long. I think, Jim, I think you're on. I think other than that 1 year, we've had Hood River Garbage since the 80s, maybe.
Yeah, it was, I think it was early 90s originally. And then there was a company out of Multnomah County that came out that didn't go well. And then we came back in. And then when Hood River Garbage was acquired by Waste Connections, we've just been providing the service ever since.
Okay. Do you know about how long ago it was that group from Multnomah County was here?
Oh, it had to be, I'm guessing early 2000s. I was out in 2009, the first go around, and we've had it ever since then.
Okay.
Any comments?
I appreciate that we've talked about this quite a bit over several months, and that we did get a lower amount. I appreciate that and thank you. And I understand that therein also lies the request for a longer rolling contract.
I know in the past editions of the ordinance, there was a request to have Waste Connections be mentioned specifically. Is that happening?
No, that is not.
Do we know when the $4 fee would be implemented?
So that would be in the next part, the resolution, but we're looking at August 1. We have to give 30-day notice before any rate change. So now we're giving 45 days, give or
Are
take. So
people gonna be paying it ahead of getting the service, or are we getting the cans?
we'll probably get the cans, I was gonna mention this on the next one, we'll probably get the cans before we actually start paying for them. There's another group somewhere over by Vancouver doing the exact same thing. They actually hire the company that provides the canisters. They come out, set them out, stage them, and take them, deliver them to each individual's house. So they want to do it in conjunction with this other group over by Vancouver. So they want to get it done and out of the way.
So do you want to talk about timeline now or the next? So we'll need a motion.
I motion to approve ordinance number 457 and repeal ordinance 315 and any amendments.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion? All right, roll call vote?
Ken?
I'm sorry, I just have a question. Anytime we've ever changed an ordinance, it had to be read at a council meeting, and then it had to be read in entirety, unless we agreed to just the top. And then at the next one, we could change it. So I think there is a procedure for doing this. You just can't change, because there's no chance for anybody to come here, right?
Right.
So I was trying to
You're
find
right
it.
on that.
I was trying to find it in here, and I'm sure that's how it is, but I
So-
can't tell you what page.
Chapter 8 ordinances in the city charter, it lists methods of adoption. Number 3, reading of any ordinance may be by title only if no member of council present at the meeting requests that the ordinance be read in full. At least 1 week before the reading, a copy of the ordinance provided to each member of the council, and copies of the ordinance are available for public inspection in the office of the city recorder. Notice of the availability of the title page of the ordinance is posted at City Hall.
Is that done?
What's that?
Well, we got them.
Yeah, you guys got it last week. The other option also is an ordinance may be adopted at a single meeting by unanimous vote of the entire council if 2 readings by title only or in full shall occur, and any section of proposed ordinance containing substantive change shall be read in full prior to consideration. And those are the 3 with substantive change and the 3 I mentioned earlier. So I can read those in full, if you would like.
I think that would be appropriate. That's what it says we need to do.
Yeah, you have a problem with the charter.
So section 2 is actually the definitions list, and it's got 26 definitions. The only one we changed was I. Where did it go?
Section 2.
Yeah, section 2I definition garbage container. The term garbage container means a collection contractor provided 35, 65, or 95 gallon container for the collection of acceptable solid waste. Section 10. License of collection. The term of such collection contractor approval shall begin on the date signed by the city administrator and shall be continuous 10-year approval to operating period. On January 1st of each calendar year, the approval shall be considered renewed for a full 10-year term unless prior to December 1st of any calendar year, the city council notifies the collection contractor in writing of its intent to terminate further in approval. In that event, the collection contractor shall continue to operate for the balance of the current approval period, 9 years. The city council may terminate its approval with or without cause. However, the city council may later reinstate the continuing renewal provision upon mutual agreement with the collection contractor and the city council. Section 17, this is a new section, force majeure. Except for the payment of amounts owed hereunder, neither party hereto shall be liable for its failure to perform or delay in its performance hereunder due to contingencies beyond its reasonable control, including but not limited to strikes, compliance with laws or governmental orders, inability to access a container, fires, inclement weather, and acts of God, and such failure shall not constitute a breach under the contract.
So we're on fire and they can't get to us, that's okay.
Yes. So, and I guess I'll read the ordinance entitled in full. An ordinance relating to the keeping, removing, and hauling of garbage and refuse in the city of Cascade Locks, providing rules and regulations governing the hauling, collection, and disposal of garbage, refuse, and other solid waste, authorizing the city council to grant an exclusive contract for collection of solid waste, providing a method for establishment of rates, therefore providing penalties, and repealing ordinance number 315 and all amendments thereto.
Thank you. Okay, any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Councilmember Compton,
Aye.
Emerling Baker,
I,
Farrell,
No.
Keller,
Aye.
Miller,
No,
Mayor Fallon,
Aye.
passes.
Passes. Okay. Next one, approval of resolution 1487, garbage can service or garbage service rate.
All right, so this is the second half of this equation, laying out the rates increase of $4 effective August 1st, and you'll see the rates shown in Exhibit A. Current rate for a weekly curbside 32 gallon will go from 2102 to 2502. Carry out rate 2808 to 3208. And then any additional 25 pounds, still $3.99. Again, they would give us probably a couple weeks of service before the rates kick in because they want to get the distribution done. We found a location by the wastewater plant to stage about 800 carts. They would come out and set them out at everybody's house.
What about the ones we have, the tubs we have now? Are they taking those back?
As they keep them.
Yes, we would still use those. Is that correct, Jim? You guys would still use the tubs?
No.
So the current recycle bins would be used for glass bottles and jars.
That's right, yeah.
We can either collect them and bring them back, or customers can use them for firewood or planters or whatever they choose. It's up to them. If they want them out of the way, we'll definitely swing by.
Oh, gotcha, okay. All right. Thank you.
The old recycling bins are ours. So,
Tammy, did you have questions on timing? Or did that
Well, I
question
think
get
you answered
answered?
it.
Yeah, Jim, could you give a little more detail on rollout, assuming this passes now?
Sure. So let's say, for instance, if this hits the ground and we're fully implemented by August 10th, the rates wouldn't be affected till September 1st. We will go to the to the next month, so to speak, when it's an entire month of billing. We wouldn't do it in the rears.
Okay. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I had a couple of residents ask me some things.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, we'll need a motion.
I motion to approve the resolution 1487, authorizing waste collection connections, Inc. AKA your garbage to collect solid waste and recycle within the city of Cascade Locks and set rates for providing such service and repealing resolution 1482.
Is there a second?
A second.
Any discussion?
One thing I wanted to say, I just wanted to make people aware that the medium income, the percent that Cascade Locks has of people that are under the poverty level is 49%. Hood River West is only 26, and Hood River East is 33. And I've gotten a lot of feedback from people. I kind of did my own little poll and I did get 23 yeses and 15 no's, but some of the no's were really, they gave me explanations, and I just want to share one of them. That the person went from a weekly garbage to an every other week garbage to save money, which only saves her $9. I went and looked at the chart and did the math. So now we're telling her that she's gonna have to pay $8, and she's just gonna be able to save $1 out of the decision that she made, trying to cut corners.
It's only $4 a month.
Right, so it's $8 on a bill.
No,
Because we get paid twice, 2 months at a time.
Right.
okay.
Yeah. And it's just, because of that reason and so many others that are pinching pennies, even though $4 to me is a cup of coffee. I just wanted to let people know that's why I'm voting no.
And Tammy, may I ask, you did share a resource that we have on our webpage for utility assistance. And did we discuss, is there anywhere that helps with garbage assistance?
The only thing that the garbage company does is give $3 off your 2-month bill. That's it. So I think they should be doing a lot more than that, but yeah.
Okay, so the $3 up and $8, no, wait, $8 a month. $3, so $3 up, $16 makes it down to.
$3 off of eight would make it $5 more that each person would have to be paying. That is if they're not already getting it, you know.
Do we have that obviously where people can get that resource? Is that obvious?
It's through, I don't think it's very broadcast, but it is through Mid-Columbia Action Council. When you, and they're coming here in a couple of weeks. And when you set an appointment up with them, they will go through the water and the electricity. And also, if you bring your garbage bill, they'll help you get $3.
$3.
Sure.
It does. Any other discussion? Okay, no discussion, let's go to a roll call vote. Councilmember Crompton,
Aye.
Emerling Baker,
Aye.
Farrell,
No.
Keller,
Aye.
Miller,
No,
Maribel. Aye. So that passes. Next on the agenda, approval of financial auditor for 21-22 and 22-23 fiscal years.
As I mentioned a few months back, the firm we had lined up for financial audits had backed out of contract, and we need to find a new auditor. After talking to our city attorney, we do not need to do an RFP as long as the cost does not go above $150,000. We just need to show an effort to obtain 3 quotes, not actually get 3 quotes, because not a lot of people are willing to even provide us a quote. Normally it's an RFP and people plan these things out months, years in advance. So I've reached out to these 5 listed Aldrich CPAs and advisors, Talbot, Corvala, and Warwick, Moss Adams, Isler CPA, and RAS Group. As you can see, I got 1 quote. 2 of them just declined and the other 2 did not respond. The quote from Aldrich is provided for review. The total cost for the 2 years estimated at $86,400. After these 2 years, we will then go out for a formal RFP. The goal is to just get somebody on contract and get moving forward with these audits. I did talk to them because we're pretty much at the bottom of their list because they've committed to other things. They would not even be able to start looking at our audits for 21-22 until September.
And Aldrich, do they currently service any?
The city of Hood River or county of Hood River? I think it's county of Hood River. And I called them and they love working with them.
Oh, they
Yeah, it was county.
marks?
Yeah, it was county. Yes, they give them very high marks.
And then, so this is contingent upon the reconciliations.
Correct. So we're actually ready to go for 21-22. We just need to know what we need to provide them. So once they actually start actively working on it, items to them. 22, 23, we're still working. I mean, obviously, there's still 2 weeks left in it, but still trying to catch up on that one, but we can get going on 21, 22 now.
So when they would get through these 2 years, they put out an RFP.
Yeah.
And then that's giving a bigger, longer commitment. So
Correct.
These will be a little bit less.
Yes, we could probably do 3 5-year contracts, yeah.
And then currently was it 35, 40?
We had
what was it?
35,000 in the budget.
Okay. So we're going from 35,000 to like 40.
Yeah, part of this with their quote is because we have over, I think it's $700,000 in federal funding, there's extra hoops we have to go through. And between the EDA grant and the USDA loan for the wastewater system, it puts us over that mark.
How does this measure up with the previous auditors we have that we used to go through? Do you know, like, I mean, is this like super high compared to what they were doing?
I
I'm just
don't
curious.
know the exact numbers, I don't think it's much higher. I mean, it's definitely higher, but it's not like it's double the price.
Okay.
Yeah,
You said we were paying 35.
the budget is 35, I don't remember the exact number, what we paid for the previous year's audit.
Comments?
How does this get paid for? Like what budget items do we find the extra $40,000 from?
That one I need to work on. I mean, I have the 35 budgeted for a single year. So I need to figure that one out.
Come on, 5,000.
Yeah, the second year, yeah, because we're essentially gonna have to pay for 2 years in one. Even though we didn't spend it this year, we still have to put it in this year's budget, so.
Mhm.
So we're taking last year's, what should have been 35,000 budgeted for an audit,
Yes,
okay? So we're using last year's and this, we need an audit from last year and this year, paid for this year.
yeah,
It'll be nice when we get caught up.
it will.
So is there a path to paying for this?
There, yes, I need to, again, I was working on the budget following last week's meeting today. But yes, yeah, I need to double check, but yes.
And assume there's no grants that help with this.
Nope, we're on our own. This one's all us, yeah.
We're on our own. Mhm.
And unfortunately, it needs to be done. I mean, we don't really,
Yeah.
We don't have a choice.
yeah,
The state doesn't say, you don't get to not do it.
So we can't afford it.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, we need a motion.
Right, I motion to approve the quote from Aldrich CPAs and advisors to provide the city of Cascade Locks financial audit services for fiscal years 2021 to 2022 and 2022 to 2023.
Is there a second
I second.
discussion?
I would just like to mention that, in the past, the past finance officer was willing to stay and get you guys through the audit because that was her books and she could have got the audit done. You had a group, you had auditors then that worked for you. And because your new hire that you hired, the finance officer wasn't comfortable with that, the council made that decision not to do that. And this is one more time the community, the taxpayers in this town is, you know, it's more money. And yet you have to do it because you have to have your books good. We're spending money like crazy and we don't know what our books are. And I keep saying it at council meetings, and I know you guys get tired of it, but it is the truth. Thank you for your time.
Any other discussion? All right, roll call vote.
Councilmember Compton,
Aye.
Emmeline Baker. Aye. Farrell,
Aye.
Keller,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Fairfield.
Aye. pass.
Council? Thank you. Get a lot of time.
All right, we're going on to E. Museum. You're E. You're E.
Good evening. I submitted the request for funding from the community fund. Last year, the 2022 city council donated $2,500 to support our, what we call the pony party, which is a big summer festival that we are making into an annual event. This year will be the second of these pony parties, and we're looking to expand the impact and what we are offering at the event. And I brought flyers, if anyone wants a flyer. So I am requesting that the city council consider making the same donation that we did last year, is that $2,500 of support.
Can you talk about the differences? You said you made changes. So
Yeah.
How is that gonna look different?
Sure, so I did cover that in the letter that I do not have handouts of, so I'll just read the request at the moment.
Okay, that would be great.
Alright, so dear Mayor Fallon and Cascade Blocks City Council, in July 2022, the Friends of the Cascade Blocks Historical Museum celebrated the 160th anniversary of the Oregon Pony with a community event. We hosted a bounce house, live music, portrait artist, crafts, games, to let kids ring the bell on the Oregon Pony, and all visitors got to visit the museum. The event was intended to be a membership celebration, but evolved with council input to become a bigger public event. We had so much fun at this event that we have decided to make it an annual affair. The 2022 City Council supported this event with a $2,500 contribution from its Community Support Fund. I'm writing to request that the council repeat its support for our Bigger, Better 2023 Pony Party. In addition to all of the fun of last year, we are adding a bigger live music jam session, inviting more nonprofit partners, expanding the programming around transportation, offering better concession options, and expanding our marketing reach to include a broader audience. Would you please consider donating $2,500 to support the event again this year? Friends of the Cascade Blocks Historical Museum is a 501c3 nonprofit organization celebrating, preserving, and interpreting the shared heritage of our community. We hope that you will all join us at the 2023 Pony Party on July 22nd, 2023, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. We thank you for your continued support and look forward to seeing you often at the museum. So big jam session, bounce house, good times. Snow cones, hot dogs.
Jordan, can you tell us where we're at financially?
There's $4,800 left in the support community programs fund.
And what would happen to next year's budget if that didn't get spent? Where would that money go?
General fund.
Nowhere, it would just, yeah, it would roll into whatever wasn't spent would go into beginning balance.
Beginning balance for that particular line item?
Just general fund.
Janice, how are you working the admission? $5 admission for adults and kids free, or what did you decide?
So last year it was for ages 4 and up, and I think this year we're moving it to ages 6 and up, just because 4-year-olds don't get enough out of something to charge $5 for them.
And how much is a museum membership?
Our family admission or memberships are $40, and it gets 2 adults and 4 kids or grandkids, and we are not super picky about like checking people's IDs to make sure they're in the same household and stuff. We just trust our members to be good adults and show up to have a good time.
People can sign up when they come to the event.
Yes, absolutely.
Have you, I'm not quite sure if this fits under their spending criteria, but have you gone to tourism committee?
We just received a grant from the tourism committee for some other advertising projects, so I did not approach the tourism committee about this one.
Is there any way that you can reduce admission or to make it more so more people can attend? So I know a lot of families to pay $5 a piece might be a challenge.
Sure, that's something that we can take to the committee to discuss. I can't unilaterally make that decision.
Right.
Right.
All right. Any other comments or thoughts? Anything? All right. We need a motion? Like to?
Motion to, accept or to
Award.
award, the amount of $2,500 to the museum for the pony party. I think.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I love this, and now that we are going through budget, and that we are considering having other community, such as, dare I say, fireworks, that it's hard for me, when I'm hoping, if there was money left over at tourism, that I know you hate to keep asking, that they might have some money, if this could go into our general fund. We're having a hard time.
I hear what you're saying, and I feel like that's a conversation for the next budget, as I also have questions about what is this community fund for and what, like, how does it get used appropriately? And like, does it need to be $10,000? Like, I'm in agreement with you, but my reason for my yes vote is that it's already budgeted. If it doesn't get spent on this, it goes into the general fund for next year's budget, and it doesn't get allocated to a specific purpose. It could be spent on pennies.
Yeah, and yourself.
And we already had this budgeted in this year's thing for events like this. And if we don't use it, then we're just kind of one of those, like, we already planned to spend this money. We don't, yes, it adds to next year's budget, but it's also money that we probably should have spent on the community.
Does tourism have, does their budget go the same dates as ours?
Yes. And so kind of similar conversation, I did reach out to the city attorney about the fireworks and actually museum utilities can both, in his opinion, come out of the tourism fund. Not have to go through general fund. So that, well, the utilities are as long as the museum is open. So that's 8 out of the 12 months. The months that it's actually not operating as a tourism facility, tourism dollars cannot be used at it. So, but that does save us about $7,000. So I mean, we can, and I've already fixed it in the budget that we can pay for those items out of tourism.
So okay. And then the other question that came from the budget was the fireworks out of tourism. and
Yes, so that can come out of tourism.
And
Oh, good.
but we haven't, do we have to request that from them, or you can?
It's your guys' money. I mean, they report to you.
So I think you tell them this.
Yeah, I mean, they can advise, but it's really, you council has the final say. And, I mean, so the tourism support was 30,000, bumped up to 40,000, and you can earmark part of that to say, okay, of that, 5,000 needs to go towards fireworks, the rest of it, tourism can spend whatever they want to spend it on.
That makes
And,
sense.
right, but I understand what we're saying for this year's budget on community sport. This could come out, but as we discuss future fiscal budgets, we might see that some events might be filtered through tourism.
Possibly.
Right.
This one might be a little
Tough,
tough.
because it feels.
It's not really, this is kind of more of a local item than a tourism event.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Okay. Roll call vote?
Councilmember Compton,
Aye.
Emmeline Baker,
I,
Carol. Aye. Keller.
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mayor Fallon.
Aye. Passes. All right,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Okay, now we're on to. Yeah, I was in the canoe club.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Val Stefanchuk from nonprofit Gorge Canoe Club. And we are requesting the $2,300 to fund our summer programs throughout the summer. We've done this in the past. In the past couple of years, we have provided community camps and community programs at no cost to the community. And last year, we sort of teamed up with PTO and were able to offer a 3-day camp. It was a camp, mountain biking and paddling camp. And this year, we sort of kind of took the head on that to request this funding to help us with some of the safety equipment and also to help finance to be able to provide the summer camps at no cost to the community for youth this summer.
Can you talk more about the safety equipment that you need, or are they life vests, or are they?
Yes, the majority of the equipment that we have currently, like safety equipment, has been donated by the citizens of the town. A lot of the equipment is also, like a lot of our kayaks have been donated through either our members or people just in the community that they find like, oh, I don't really use this, but you can use it. So, but it also makes it a mashup of different equipment. So it kind of makes it difficult to, like when you have a group of kids coming to find the right life jacket when, you know, I have a XXX and XX and
Right.
the kid that's standing in front of me is extra small.
Right.
And we, so having the more uniformed safety like life jackets, as well as anybody that's going out on the water, you know, obviously safety is a priority at everything that we're doing on the water. But learning on how to respect the nature and being out on the river and being safe and also having fun can all work together. It's just finding a way to bring all that together.
Do you plan on doing any like life jacket stations or?
We've had a talk about putting in the life jacket station, and it's definitely on one of our things that we would like to accomplish. For the community to be able to provide some life jacket stations in different parts of the port, where there's a water access.
I'm a big fan of life jackets. Speaking from experience.
Val, do you think our signage down there is sufficient, or do we need to work on that, warning people of riptides and things of that nature?
Personally, I think the signage that's there is enough. Like a lot of people that tend to, you know, if people are looking for trouble, the signage doesn't matter. It's understanding too, like, I think some of the most difficult times on the river and the hardest times, I mean, right after the winter time, when the snow melts, we have some of the strongest currents in the gorge, just right here coming through the locks, just because the river narrows. As it narrows, we have some, I mean, it's sweeping currents, like a mountain river coming through with a lot of debris coming also, because all the logs or tree, everything is floating downriver. It all kind of bottlenecks right at the Bridge of the Gods. So it tends to be definitely more challenging area. Like as a canoe club, also our practices, even though we paddle out of the boat ramp area where we can launch through the current, and able to navigate, but as soon as we come through, we would hug the Thunder Island and get out of the current and be able to come back upriver and still be safe. Anybody that's with lack of experience, if anybody would go, I would say this is about even a few weeks ago, if you went to the Bridge of the Gods, you would have if you not experienced, you would have a hard time coming back. You would just have to get out on the shore somewhere else, either on Washington side or on Linden side.
No, that young man drowned, the currents were running crazy, high and fast.
Yeah, I was out there.
You even experienced, you struggled with it.
Yep, and I mean, just even that day, being out there, there's a lot of things that you can learn, we can learn and teach others about the currents and about the river. The fact you can have a river coming this way, but then there's also understanding the eddy and like, because you can go up against that current as long as you're like 10 feet from the shore, you can hug the shoreline, and as long as you're able to move, you can go. But if you're in the middle in the current, unless you have, you know, your Olympic caliber athlete, you probably won't be able to make it.
So I know your camps, you probably do some teaching to read the river a little bit.
In the summer camps, absolutely. So it's not only we teach the technique of paddling, like working as a team, since we have some couple team boats now, as well as working individual boats and navigating the water, as well as safety on the water. Obviously, life jackets is a big part of everybody. If they want to go out on the water, then they have to wear one.
And they're wearing the right size.
Correct.
The right size.
I didn't have to, I can't say that I had to put a kid in the oversized life jacket. No, it hasn't happened, but that's something as we expand too, it's something that we need is a kind of uniform consistency in our safety equipment.
Are there specific types of life jackets that are required or best practice?
General, like safety, like one of our main packs that we use for the most are typical, like the West Marine pack, which is Coast Guard certified as a class. I'm not gonna make up any numbers, but it's Coast Guard certified life jacket. Most of the life vests are.
I guess my question is like, are you wanting to get paddling vests, or are you wanting to get the orange vests, or like the orange PFDs?
Something that would be consistent with our uniform in a way. But something also with getting the right sizes, you know, especially like having the kid size. But right now, it's just a basket full of random life jackets, and yeah, some are too small, some are too big. So having quantities of a certain number of sizes is a good thing to have, as well as opening that up. We're actually teaming up with this year. We are coordinating with CGRA, which is Columbia Gorge Racing Association, and we're able to share some of our life jackets with them, and they're bringing some of their stuff. So we will have some more equipment, as well as having a station on the beach next to where the sailboats are. We will have a designated spot for the life jackets that we'll be able to store and keep in that area and open to the community. And also, like Gorge Canoe Club, it's open to the public, so anybody that is interested in coming out and trying out paddling on the river is welcome to come out. And there's no cost associated with coming and trying out. We encourage people to sign up for the memberships, but nobody's pressed to sign up.
You've had families come to
Yes.
several, and they don't have to sign up.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions?
I just want to say, and I know many people paddle with them. I am a member. I am not affiliated with the summer camps. So I am not sure if that is a conflict of interest and if I'm allowed to vote.
I was wondering.
Yeah, if I'm,
I think if you're a member, it'd be a conflict.
right.
My family is a membership also, so I will have to abstain as well.
And on that note, I am strongly in support of giving the funding to this. I know there were great reviews from families last summer. I know that in the recent tragedy that happened, somebody said our kids aren't being taught how to read the river. I really want to see life jackets there. So even while I cannot officially vote, I want to share the reasons I would support it.
Jordan, after awarding the museum, how much is left?
2,300 and about 45 cents. So this would wipe out the fund, we'd have about 40 cents left.
Tammy, did you have something to add?
That was gonna be my question.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
With only 3 people eligible to vote, how are we going to?
Which is.
Oh, sorry. That'd be fine.
Motion.
Wait, I'm sorry, I'm gonna interrupt. On that note, I am a museum member. So because, is anybody else here a museum member? And we voted on that.
It was unanimous though.
I know, but I'm wondering
That's a good point.
why I revealed that.
I didn't even think about that.
Well, yeah. I mean, it would be,
So that brings the point, is it a conflict of interest or not if you're a member?
I
Because
think,
otherwise, if you're a member,
It is.
yeah, Butch is a member. Yeah.
but I think in a small town, it's important that we are members of our community. And if we can't vote on these things,
Unless we don't have any, I don't know if this is true, but unless we don't have any, we're not active in the organization, we're not on the board making
Oh, we're not.
decisions.
Yeah, you're not on the
We're
board.
just a
you're not-
citizen
I
registered.
mean, Butch actually is on the museum board
Oh,
via his position on council.
okay.
He represents the council
Okay.
on it.
Right.
But nobody's gaining any financial benefit, no.
and I'm not part of
political
this
benefit.
event, and I'm also part of the pony.
On the
event.
surface, I don't see a reason why you guys would need to, but I mean, we can vote and I can check with the attorney.
Because yes, if my vote counted for the museum, I would hope that it would count.
That's a good point. Okay, but you're not part of the,
I'm not planning the pony party.
no.
I'm not gonna have a booth there. Yeah,
My question would be to you as a council person, how often do you go to the museum and how often do you go to the canoe club? And that would tell me about how committed you are or how involved you are in that. I mean, do you do it once in a while, like maybe the museum?
Yeah, I do once in a
Or
while
do you
at
go
the
all the time? Because I see social media, I see you on there all the time in the canoe club, but I don't see you at the museum.
I go to lots of trivia events, probably
That would be-
100% of
Well,
our events.
just food for thought, food for thought.
So,
Well, I think as long as council, you're not benefiting personally, you're not.
and we can vote, and you would check with the attorneys that we.
Yeah, I mean, you're not
Just to be sure.
personal, you're not the one selling him the life vest,
I'm
you're
not on the
not
board.
planning the event, I mean, you're not personally or professionally gaining anything from this vote.
When is it?
It's throughout the summer, so we'll have, our goal originally from beginning of starting the club was always being able to provide the youth program. So this, as we growing, as we gaining more members, we're able to offer, last year we ran a community program throughout all summer, so we had at least once a month, once every month we had a designated, starting in May, June, July, August, September, all the way through October. We hosted community nights with families and kids getting out on the water. So this year, the goal is to set up a weekly youth program as well as a few day summer camp, end of July, early August.
So you're looking to purchase these things this month?
Yes.
Sorry. So then imagine the shipping and everything costs a lot. Okay.
I would like to make a motion to award the Gorge Canoe Club for the amount of $2,300 for out of the community fund and for the year of 2020.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Roll call vote?
Councilmember Compton,
Aye.
Emmeline Baker,
Aye.
Farrell,
Aye.
Keller,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye, but I would like to make a comment to him after the vote's taken.
Mayor Fallon.
Aye. Councilman
Yep.
Miller?
Yes, I got a report about the Gorge Canoe Club. I appreciate their work with children and stuff. We need more of that. But I got a report that they had a community event, a race of some sort, and had a barbecue down at their club, of which they serve beer. Evidently Thunder Island brought down some beer taps to them. That would be a violation of their conditional use permit. And also, being a nonprofit, they are required to have an OLCC license if they are serving beer. So I want them to be aware of that.
All right. It passes. All right, Val, passes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, next on appearance of interested citizens to share a variety of perspectives on issues facing our communities. Any?
I do not see any hands up online.
Okay. Reports and presentations, city committees.
No city committee reports today.
Discussion on planning intern, Counselor Erin Baker.
Thank you. I gave you all a sheet, for which I put my copy away. You want one? I found it. Thank you. I just want, it's just informational and I know y'all can read, so I wanted to be brief. I've spoken both with Kathy Woosley and in depth with Amanda Ferguson from the University of Oregon, Planning and Policy Department, who is also working on our strategic plan, because she had mentioned interns several times, so I wanted to get information to see if we might benefit. So I'll just briefly, if we were to consider an intern, we would need to do that about a month before a college term began, so that we can advertise. And apparently she was also, Amanda, for several years, maybe 19, I don't quote me, she was for several years a planner for the city of Cottage Grove, worked successfully with interns for several years on several projects. So if we wanted one, it does cost, interns do cost. She said as incentive, you try to pay them a little bit more than minimum wage if you can. And it says many hours as you want. Some could be remote, some could be on campus or here, and that they're generally assigned to a project, and it would be, as Kathy and Amanda recommended, go to the planning commission and see what sorts of codes need to be changed, what things need to happen, what is the type of project we might want an intern for. And the great internship that we have had in Cascade Lakes before, I don't know if Brenda or Tammy or Butch remember the rare interns. I talked about them there for the resource assistance for rural environments. They're here for 11 months, and that would be that we apply for in next February to put it in the 24-25 fiscal budget, because we wouldn't pay till July, and they can do a big graduate students a one-year project. So I've given you all that possible things that were discussed that Amanda had used them for in Cottage Grove. She mentioned National Historic Registrar, like for this building, even if we were gonna sell it, it might be important because then the buyer would get grants, would be available, makes it worth more. And getting somebody to do this pre-work is why she recommends, because it saves a lot of money, and she said they can even help write draft code changes prior to taking them to the planner or a land use attorney. I talked to Kathy about that. She said, of course, it would be with the commission if that's something they want to work on. The supervision could be with a volunteer, and I'd be willing to do that, or Kathy has mentioned that I think there has been staff that were willing to do it in the past. And then the process, of course, she said, if we were interested, it starts with the need, what we want. And so possible next steps would be talking to Kathy, bring this to the planning commission to see, because they're already going to discuss in July some possible code changes they might want to look at. And also wait until we get our recommendations from the strategic planning from your role. And I couldn't, without looking at the budget again, to see if there was any unspent planning funds set aside last year, if we wanted to indeed hire before the 24-25 fiscal year, that planning contract money could be used. And I'm willing to pursue grant funding. Amanda brought up Department of Land Conservation and Development. Grants come with very little stipulation as to what they need to be used for. So it's just informational. And as I had mentioned in the past, that I am interested in being a liaison to a committee, as many city councilors are in various cities. And Kathy said, once upon a time, they did that here in Cascade Locks as well. And something I'd like to follow up on. So that's all, just information.
Thank you, this is good information. I'm glad to hear that there's probably grants to pay for this. This is like, no, one more thing. that we-
Right.
Yeah.
And I actually met with DLCD this morning about grants, so there's quite a few options out there.
And bear in mind that the city administrator doesn't always have to do it all if you want to assign, because you're overbooked.
Any comments? All right, thank you. Okay. Next one, discussion on community picnic, Friday, August 25th. For the last 2 years, we've done community picnic. First year, we had about 100 people. Last year, we had close to 200, a little bit under 200. Each year, the city has paid up to 1,500, and so with the port as well. All of the receipts have ran through the port, so they could do a check and balance, so checks aren't being paid from one and to the other. For the last 2 years, we've been under budget, knock on wood, hopefully it could be under budget again. We're very creative on and mindful of how the money is spent. The sole purpose of the community event is simply, there's no agenda. It's simply come, have dinner with your neighbors. Last year, and every time you do an event, there's always something that we can change or improve. One of the comments last year was they would like to see tables more together and not spread out. I think now that we're coming out of COVID, we wouldn't have to be as spread out. That way it's going to create even more a sense of community. The port has set aside that day and also the funds as well. So we just need to approve up to 1,500 for the community picnic.
Would that be in the next year's budget?
Yes, yeah, it would not hit this year.
That come out of the community fund
Comes out of the community fund.
next year's.
Yes. Mhm. It would be spent in August. So like I said, the last couple of years, we've come under budget. So pretty good shoppers.
Now, fire department had requested possibly not being counted on to be.
Right, and so
barbecue.
with Val here, maybe Val can speak to that. Talk to John. John, he's overwhelmed. He wants to come down and bring a fire engine. He's into that. He would bring the barbecue or if they need it, but the canoe club is willing to come and do the barbecuing. So I
Yeah,
do,
we discussed with John Logan about bringing the volunteers to help with the barbecue.
and then this year, whatever, if there's, last year, there were some hot dogs left, some Polish sausage, not much. And then like a couple chips and some snacks, all of those things went to go to the fire department. So the food bank, they don't want it. And so the fire department's very happy to get any of the extra snacks. Last year, the canoe club, they helped out quite a bit. And so my executive said we had about paper plates, about that much left. So the canoe club get the paper plates, and then there was some silverware, not much left. So that's what the canoe club took. So everything gets divvied up. Nothing goes to waste. Everything would be, once again, even though we're coming out of COVID, still prepackaged things. We had city councilors there. I always encourage you, if people want to take one package of cookies, have a few. So the kids had a good time. We're looking at same thing, getting hopefully a band, and then the bounce house, and then the food again. There's several community members that come and either slice up the tomatoes. It's a group effort. It really is. Councilman Happy was there last year, helped us set up. Council, you came, Brenda, you were there as well. So it was really a nice event. So you were there, but you did the survey.
Have to have people have their food handlers service card. I think it's a $10.
Val, do you have your food service?
I personally don't, but we have a few members that do. We had to do it for
The
some of
pancake
this
feed.
stuff, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Do we get the pavilion again?
We do, right now. So that was huge. I talked to Janetta, that saved so much time because we could just unload everything in the pavilion and store it there, and it was a big, big help. So
And we're not doing a questionnaire. Did you have anything else? in
that's
mind?
something that we could talk about. Find something, because people tend to like the raffle. So, but we can certainly talk about some options with that. Right. And include that in the picnic. So,
That is the week before school starts. And so I don't know what the school will have planned that week as well.
mhm,
So just so that we're aware of
okay,
overwhelming that time period with events.
right. I would understand that being a school teacher. You're ramping up. So we would need a motion.
So I'll do a motion,
I had my hand up here for a long time.
Oh, sorry, Butch, I
We
missed that.
haven't
Yeah.
seen you. We didn't see you.
My fault.
All
Butch.
right. I am sitting here and I have the accounting details of last year's picnic. And what they listed was the price for the bounce house, how much they, for the live music, all the rest of it's just listed community picnic and an amount. We have no receipts for exactly what they bought. There was no after action report of exactly how they disposed of anything. I mean, this is a shoddy accounting of city money.
Well, Councilman Miller, I appreciate your concerns and your opinion. I know the every single cent, there was a receipt for every single cent. There's an accounting on that. If you have that in question, I'm sure Brittany over at the port or Jeremiah, we can get that, and then also for the last 2 years, it's always been talked about if there's anything left over, who would get it, how that would be allocated. And so that was, nothing changed for 2 years. The fire department takes the extra food. The only thing that changed last year is I gave the Canoe Club maybe a 2-inch stack of paper plates.
Yeah, they copy every single receipt.
They copy every single receipt, and if you don't have a receipt, you don't get reimbursed. So, I mean, Brittany has a list of like how many hot dogs, how many granola bars. It's pretty darn detailed what she has. If someone questioned, like, you had a $1,300 bill at Costco, what did you buy? We can back that up. So it's all on a printed receipt. Okay.
Pam had a comment. I don't know if I missed it from an earlier
Okay.
discussion or if it was relevant to this one. Pam, are you there? She is not. Oh, there she is. Go ahead, Pam.
Did she type her question?
No,
She had her
just
hand
that she had a comment. She sent a message.
up? Okay.
Pam, if you're speaking, we can't hear you.
Okay. She's up. Where are we at with that?
I was gonna make a motion unless there's any more comments.
Quick question, when do we discuss, what about this line item of the community fund, or community project fund?
How it's allocated?
Yes, and how much we spend and what do we give it to you, and it seems willy-nilly, and it seems like, oh, shoot, we have $5,000 left. Let's reach out to people and see, and stuff gets planned at the last minute just because there's this $5,000 out there. And so I think there needs to be a wholehearted discussion about what is this purpose of this? How do we allocate it? What is the proper means of applying for it? Showing up here and realizing at 7 o'clock that this is what's happening is a little frustrating to me, that we just spent $5,000 and it wasn't included in our agenda packet and I didn't get an email about it.
Right.
So, and realizing that the way that this money was spent last year was, oh shoot, there's $5,000, let's call the PTO and see how we can spend this. It seems like, one, there's either way too much money allocated to this, or two, we're not spending it appropriately in the way it moves.
Right.
And so we're talking about fireworks, we're talking about other things that we need to spend money on. Right? And we just willy-nilly just allocate this money in terms of that. There's no dictation, as Butch was saying, there's no reports. Michaela has never given a report about how the casino night went and how that money was spent and how that benefited the community afterwards. Like, I don't.
Well, I think you bring up a good point, to come up with some parameters, and certainly we can get that on an agenda to talk about it, have that as a subject line, really take an in-depth look at it, and then come up with some rules.
I do like the idea of a follow-up, and I do like parameters.
I do. So you have valid points. You do, I hear you.
So would you like us to have that discussion before we vote on this? Or are you feeling like we need to?
I guess I just have questions about the budget process in itself. It seems like we just sit there and listen to a bunch of arguments and then we move on without discussing, no, we really don't need to spend $5,000 on that. Or we need to decrease this.
Right.
And so I don't know when that conversation needs to be had about the community development fund or whatever this is.
After our budget meetings are done, the council then votes on the budget, and then you can talk freely about anything that was in the budget. That part will happen, I know.
Yeah. So, but for right now, we need to vote on it. We're already kind of cutting it close, so the port's kind of withholding this date. And so I told them, I said, we can't say for sure until it goes to council and is voted on.
So this is something the port is in favor of as well.
They're on board with it, yes. But certainly I hear you with coming up with protocol, absolutely. And it is not to be willy-nilly, absolutely, and have follow-up reports.
Yes, and I also want to make sure, it's not like the events that were planned last year at the last minute did not go without success. They were quite successful. It just, the perception from the other side of the table is that this wasn't planned out. It was just, there's money to spend, let's spend it. And
Well, I think certainly we can do a better job of communicating what money is available. I think maybe a lot of people don't ask for it because they don't know about it. So certainly better communication, absolutely.
And what, I like your idea, better parameters. What are we hoping for? Who are we hoping to include?
But the community picnic, to put on an entire picnic for 3,000 or under is really quite amazing.
I don't have questions about that. I have questions about the fund and what is the purpose of the fund? It seems, yes, what is it, $1,500 for the city to organize a picnic? Yes, that makes sense to me. My questions are, is this appropriate money to be allocating to the PTO? Is this appropriate money to be allocating, as much as I love these organizations, why is the city funding those organizations?
Well, we don't have a Parks and Rec, for one thing. And so this fund, from what I understand, and Tammy or Brenda, you've been on for a while, or Butch, but it was created so there is some money to benefit the community. So because we don't have Parks and Rec. So it was designed for people like the PTO, the port, different organizations, nonprofits, the museum to come and ask for funds.
To give the youth something to do, since we don't have a park. What's her name? Kirsty did it last year, I think.
She did a camp.
Councilor Miller does have his hand up.
Okay. Councilman Miller?
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious as to why you have this under a discussion item when it should have been placed under an action item, because you clearly stated you want the port and you were waiting for an answer.
Well,
Doesn't
maybe
make
that
sense.
was an oversight then. Maybe it should have went under action.
Yeah, I didn't realize there'd be an ask for money. I thought it was just a discussion on the
Okay,
picnic.
okay. So point well taken. Brenda, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I have a comment. I concur with Councilmember Keller that we just awarded like $4,800 and we never asked or requested for any follow-up or any receipts. However, for the picnic, we want receipts, so I think there needs to be some consistency. If we want receipts from the picnic, we need it from everybody that we're giving money to. The other thing too is at the last picnic, we're not checking IDs or nothing because we're really having a community event. I don't think other taxpayers in this community would be okay with feeding Carson and all of them, so we're not checking. I personally know that there was people from Carson at the picnic. You know, is it a big deal? Probably not, but it isn't our money. It's the taxpayers' money, right? We gotta think about that and be mindful.
Yeah, it is advertised as
But we're not checking.
Cascade locks, so I mean, we are.
You're telling me, but you're not
hinting
enforcing
to
that.
them not to come if you're not from the town, but yeah.
There was a lot of people that don't live in Cascade Locks, that this isn't their money that we're spending, that we're at that picnic.
Checking IDs at a community picnic makes it not
Not-
feel
Not friendly,
good.
not,
And like,
That's why
what do you want, like, somebody, you have to bring your driver's license, or if you're not planning on, if you don't have your license updated, you have to bring some
we're gonna
mail,
charge you for the burgers.
or you have to bring some mail or something, or like, it's like, oh, and then you have, like,
Right.
it's, then how do you keep track of that? Because once you're in, you're in. You only give wristbands to people that aren't aren't from there and they have to pay money. And then it's like, well, now you're being kind of, it just gets really
Yeah.
weird. Like you either have to
It does.
charge for everybody or it's a free community event.
Right. The whole purpose 2 years ago was just simply to get people together, not talk about COVID, come have dinner with your neighbors. I know, I met a few that were from Carson and Stevenson. They were really happy. It's part of being a good neighbor. We're not advertising, hey, Stevenson and Carson come, but we're saying it's a Cascade Walks community picnic. I didn't feel for the last 2 years, we were overran by individuals from outside of the area. There was a couple. One of them said, I don't know if I'm supposed to be here, and I said, well, are you hungry? And they're like, yes. And I don't think they had eaten in a long time. I am not gonna tell them they can't have hot dog.
I mean, we could always put up a donations welcome from out, or donations welcome, you know, if we could always do that.
Are we allowed?
The city can't take it.
Yeah, okay, never mind.
That's why funding like the picnic is very, it's a very gray matter because of that, because this is taxpayers' money.
I want to make certain first, real quick. I know for certain the PTO submitted receipts and was reimbursed based upon the receipts. Like, I don't want that to, and then my question isn't in regards to the quality and the purpose of the picnic. It's in the allocations of this $10,000 and how this is spent and why, like, I hear the argument, but I want to have that discussion about what is that purpose now and how do we fulfill those purposes now?
Right, I think it, like I mentioned before, this was gonna require an in-depth discussion, and it's something that's not gonna
Yeah,
be
no,
solved tonight, but you have valid points, and I agree with them, absolutely. According to the LOC, I checked with them, League of Oregon Cities, and they said cities pay for picnics all the time, they pay for egg hunts and ping pong ball drops. I know one community does that, and or the ducks that they drop, that they said cities do pay for things. So I think, to bring to your point, I think you want it tightened up to say, kind of come up with what are the expectations? So we don't run into this at the end of next year where we have funds left over when it could have went to a group that could have really benefited earlier in the year. But I honestly think people don't really know about it, and so we need to do a better job at advertising that.
Can also just be a function of when our budget time is and when it is actually pleasant to be outside.
No,
Right.
So you get that, I understand what you're saying about the
Right.
fund, and I do agree that it does need some guidelines at bare minimum on
Right,
how we should be allocating the money. 'Cause it seems like right now, the only guideline is it
right,
gonna be used in the community?
And
right.
I would personally love to see, if it was here once upon a time ago, because I do talk to Kathy about what was ever here, like a culture, arts and events committee. So,
And then
you know,
things
and
could be
then
ran
they
through.
would have parameters, and they would be more, but that, again, is a longer discussion for later. But or parking rec could be later.
And Councilman Miller did bring up a good point. It should have been an action item, so apologize for that. But I do feel like we're time sensitive, right? This is June. And the port is kind of holding the state.
Jordan, are we allowed to switch it from discussion item to action item?
It's your guys' meeting.
As long as we're not doing anything illegal, we can do that.
Wouldn't be the first time we've done it.
We've definitely voted on things in the reports and presentations.
More than once, so.
Right.
Yeah, you can make a motion to vote on it in
Okay.
report presentations, it's just moving it from one to the other, I don't know.
But make a note of it, and next time it'll be an action items, anything that we're voting on.
Oh, yeah. Make them try to,
Okay, so I'll try this again.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to approve 1,500, is that what? Up to 1,500 based on receipts to the community picnic from the 2022,
23-24.
23-24 budget from the community fund.
Based on the fourth part.
Yeah, based on, based on the fourth party with us too.
I second that motion.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, roll call vote.
Councilmember Crompton,
Aye.
Emmeline Baker,
I,
Farrell,
Aye.
Keller,
Aye.
Miller,
No,
Mayor Fallon.
Aye. All right, it passes. And then, Councilman Keller, take into your consideration and we'll get that on the docket to have a more in-depth conversation.
Pam did type out her comment. It's going about 2 subjects back, so would council like me to read it?
I think it's important.
Sure.
Okay, all right. Like to counter Butch's mention of the Gorge's Canoe Club serving alcohol at their personal celebration. There was no charge for anything. It was a big salmon giveaway / feast. Alcohol was served responsibly and nothing was charged for.
Okay.
that's still a violation of their conditional use permit. Because when they had that conditional use permit, they only agreed that they were going to have soda, coffee, water. There was nothing about beer. That was not agreed upon.
Okay, thank you. All right, next on, discussion on MOUs, available power, large users and requirements to sell power. The picnic pass.
All right, so Roundhouse, after we had passed the MOU for Good Life Realty and their possible facility on Dennis Snyder's property, Roundhouse reapproached me about an MOU with them. I talked to the mayor about it and wanted to do it. Instead of going into Roundhouse's discussion, have a larger discussion with council about MOUs and the power available within the city before we went any further. Is that correct, Mayor? Did I understand that? Okay. So on the call with us is Scott Lindsay and Guy Colburn from BKI, our city engineers, to kind of talk a little bit about the capacity of our city, what we can do before our EDA grant is complete and our new substations in place. Mayor, I didn't know what your exact concerns with the MOU process were.
So my concerns are in the past, we'll use previous administration. If there was a business that was interested in doing business in Cascade Locks, he brought it to council. Everything runs through council. So it's council, under council's direction on what projects we're interested in. So it would be brought to council and council would say, okay, we're willing to hear it. Sounds reasonable, or we would love to hear a presentation. At that point, it goes back to the administrator. The administrator would talk to the individual. We'll just use Roundhouse as an example. So at that point, council is directing the administrator on presentation, and then we would invite the individual from Roundhouse to come and present to all of council. It's a decision, it's kind of backwards. I've done quite a bit of calling, other mayors, LLC, and that's pretty much how they do it. You can't, like a business can't come and say, it's a big deal. MOUs are big. They're not something to be taken lightly, like, it's just an MOU. So should be under council's direction to say, yes, we're interested in that at the same time, and then give the administrator direction to say, yes, go ahead and start entering into discussions. But the way it was done with Roundhouse, they circumvented, navigated the council, didn't include council, didn't include the mayor, and they're making business deals between the administrator and Roundhouse, and without any knowledge of council. And it should be, council needs to be included in the discussion and aware of it. So it gives you ample time to ask good questions and not have something where an MOU is presented to you and you don't have all the information pertinent to make those decisions.
I believe that we had that discussion with Roundhouse. And I see and hear what you're saying about the second company. I believe my understanding of the situation was Mr. Bennett approached us with a legal firm that deals with this and asked to proceed so that we could make an MOU with Roundhouse. The second corporation, I do not remember their name off the top of my head.
But really,
I follow that line. I just want to, I hear your concerns versus the second corporation.
right? So by the council approving that other MOU through the, what is it, the real estate company?
Good Life Realty.
Good Life Realty, that impacts the decision, and council wasn't aware that Roundhouse is coming back around. Not to say round and round, yeah. But, so I just think council should be notified that it's, you know, I've had comments where somebody said, oh, well, Roundhouse is gone. Like, it's not gone. So, but I just would like, I just want things to run through council and be completely transparent to where two entities aren't, they're having conversations without the knowledge of, present conversations without the knowledge of council. I know it was approved a while back, but it's been off the table. There's been no mention that they are back in conversation.
So what protocol would you like to see put in place?
I would like to see where we'll use Roundhouse as an example, that they want to come back and renegotiate. They need to come back and answer questions that council has. Because before an MOU, especially since there's this other MOU that's been approved. It's changed up quite a bit. And changes options. And I don't want to see where the city is, we're either tying the hands of the court because of the power that we've promised to one, now we're going to promise to another. I don't want to pigeonhole us to where we're so limited based on what we're going to do. So not until that substation gets up and running and we can say, this is what we can do. We can forecast, but we cannot promise someone, we're going to give you 13 megawatts. We're going to give someone else 13 megawatts. There's 26 megawatts and the max is 35. So I don't want to limit the port with new businesses coming in wherever they've got a lot of space that they need to get businesses in and up and running. We have 45 new homes coming in. That's a little under a megawatt. So that was my concern. I just want everybody to be open and transparent and the council to be aware of what's going on versus somebody coming and presenting and saying, hey, we're back on board, and for the council to be armed with really good information so that you can make an informed decision.
Councilor Miller had his hand up.
Council Miller?
Yeah, I think you're putting the cart before the horse here. I mean, it's a memorandum of understanding. It is not a binding contract. They sent in their MOU the day after we passed the other one. So then we can address it. They're not hiding anything. So, you know, they still have to work with the port to get everything done with the port. So until they get that done, we have nothing to do. If they want an MOU on Yeah, can we supply them with electricity? Sure, if we have it. And we may not have it because the other guys may want more. But we can't, discriminate against them. We're a utility. That's our job, is to sell electricity. The only thing I could find out is the only time we can deny electricity to anybody is if they have failed to pay their electric bills before. Otherwise, that is our job. And we have a fiduciary responsibility to sell that electricity because we're getting a grant for the government to build it up to sell.
You make some valid points. I mean, it's
Well,
about putting
you
the
can't
cart before the
discriminate.
horse.
And you're leaving the city liable if you try to discriminate one against the other.
Well, that's exactly the reason why it needs to have council knowledge. You may have had that knowledge, but I don't believe the rest of the council had knowledge of Roundhouse coming back again. So that's all I was concerned, is I just want everything to be open and transparent. And
Well-
yes, I understand, oh wait, let me finish. And I understand that we do need to legally and contractually supply power, but we don't have to give it all. We can say how much we're gonna allocate. So, and it's not discriminating, it's about being open and transparent. That's where I'm coming from. Councilman Sean?
I understand where you're coming from with trying to make things as open and transparent as possible. But where I'm having a hard time is we already basically voted on and agreed to engage in a MOU with Roundhouse. They just left it, to my knowledge, relatively unanswered for until recently.
Yep, the ball was in their court.
The only thing I could see that would be nice is if in our report in somewhere that there was like an update on something like that, like, oh, they
That's what
agreed
I'm looking
or they are trying to renegotiate it. Because then if we're changing terms of the MOU, then we might need to re-vote on it. But other than that, I don't see a huge problem with how things have happened. We didn't have commitment from one company. We had one company that was here and ready to enter into something with us. And we went forward because they were here and they were ready now. And we were gonna sell the power. And I understand not selling over our grid's like realistic potential. But we should be trying to sell almost like up to that line, because the city just benefits from collecting the rates, and like, as Butch was saying, we can't discriminate if one company looks a little shady, you're like, well, we don't know that, because all we know is that they're a company and they wanna start a negotiation.
And there's things we can put in place for that. I mean, I talked to the lawyers from Cable Houston. We can request a line, what do they call it, a letter of credit from the bank. Pretty much saying if they skip out, the bank will pay us what they owe. And there's things we can put in place if that is our concern, that they won't pay their bill.
But to your point, when you said that you wish that there would have been something to say, hey, by the way, negotiations have started again. So that's where I'm
I
looking
mean,
at.
if they actually did, if they just came back saying like, ooh, we're kind of interested, but we're not starting the MOU with us, then we're still at nothing still. Unless they engage with the thing that we've already proposed, or they want to actively change it, or any, like, if they want to change it, then cool, we can vote on it when
Right.
it's changed. Because I'm assuming that the changed MOU wouldn't just leave without council's permission.
Exactly.
You bring up some good points as well as, Councilman Miller about the allocation of electric and big electric users, because we're talking about big electric users and not promising that which is not yet built. And I know we are doing our strategic plan, the port's doing or almost done with their strategic plan. We're having a rate study, which might help look into this. Do we legally need to have somewhere written some sort of electrical plan so that we don't give away? Because let's say we get 2 more cloud or huge electric users coming in, and it looks like we might have it, but boy, now we don't have enough for housing development. You know, is there an electric use plan so that we can legally say, that's one question, we can legally say, wow, that is beyond the scope, because we heard the ports other businesses, we heard downtown businesses, we heard development of homes. And or can we write MOUs that say this amount of megawatts and or a percent or this percentage of what is available, that which is lesser? Because we cannot presume that our station that's coming in, that is a refurbished station, is going to give us exactly what, you know, this is the amount of megawatts you should get, but maybe if it's too icy, maybe not. So can we write that in MOU, a percentage?
So that would be in the power agreement. So the MOU is just, you know, their thought is 3 to 12. You know, here's the project they're doing, here's, you know, costs and all that. The power agreement is where we lay out what we're selling it for and what limitations we would put on it. And so the MOU is allowing the city to move forward with those negotiations.
And do we have is there somewhere that's going to happen, a projection, that we have 10-year plans, I have an old one in here, you know, and maybe with the electrical people on the line, of what so many new homes, what power that would cost, what if we had every business on Main Street running, what power that might, how much power we might need. Because I certainly would hate to say no more new businesses on Winapa, because we don't have any power for you. You know, no affordable housing, because we don't have any power for you. We don't want to vacant businesses.
Councilman Miller's got his hand up again.
Councilman Miller?
Yeah, people kind of keep missing something here. How you paying for the upgrades?
People upgrade,
Is that you talking about the EDA grant?
Yeah, I mean, the city puts in money. And you have to use $1 million from the port. So if the port doesn't put in their $1 million, we're stuck. And nothing happens.
I feel like we're having 5 conversations at once. I guess to address your point, Mayor Fallon, I feel like we need to write a protocol. Bring it to council so we understand what's going on. Develop the MOU, approve the MOU, just some sort of protocol that we can follow, that we understand this is what's gonna happen. And then we can go on to these side conversations of whether or not we have power, whether that's all part of the negotiation process that's completely separate. That's not a part of this conversation from what my perspective is.
I agree with that.
I don't know if we have to write in like a proper protocol or what would need to happen, but
Everything's gonna have a protocol or, you know, have something in writing so we can refer back to it.
So when we do the power, if you get past the MOU, it's already been done, let's say, we get to the power agreement, is that presented to council? Because it should be.
Oh, yeah, they'll present to council, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you guys requested last meeting that before, with Good Life Realty, they would come present to council. Yeah.
And all these MOUs for all the power might change once we do the rate study and find out how much we will be charging them. So it could change on their end.
Yeah, they could back up.
Right.
I feel like you're misinterpreting the MOU, is it? You're, the way that I am hearing you say is that it's like, once we get into the MOU, we've already guaranteed them the power agreement. That's not what an MOU is. An MOU is to
Right.
get to the power agreement and make sure
Correct.
everything, all the Ts are crossed, the Is are dotted.
Correct.
We say, this is how much power we can afford to give you this year, and then on a contingency.
Right.
But we could have 5 MOUs in here and they could all be asking for 20 megawatts and we go, we can't give you that.
Right.
We can only give you 4
Right.
each.
Mhm.
Or, you know, and then that might discourage some of those companies because they really need more, but that's part of the
Right.
negotiation that has to occur through the MOU. You can't start, I mean, like, you can start a negotiation before an MOU, but it's more hairy that way. So we have to start it and then follow the path down.
Right. I agree with all that. I just want the council to understand and be knowledgeable that if something's coming back up, so just simply from the administrator to say, hey, by the way, I've been approached back, they would like to come, it's back on the table. They're gonna continue talks about it. That's all.
So is Roundhouse accepted the?
They're good with it, yeah. I was ready to present it for council's approval tonight. They pretty much, they saw the MOU that was approved for Good Life and they wanted an exact copy of it.
So the reason you did not want him to present
I
is.
didn't feel it was transparent to council. That's my reason. That's my reason.
Because we weren't,
You weren't notified that they were coming back around. So that's the only reason.
that he would have brought the MOU to council and we would be notified.
But council, during all these negotiations with Roundhouse, it just would have been nice to hear from you, Jordan, that, hey, by the way, I'm having these discussions, would like to get it on the calendar and present it to council. But none of that was done.
Would you like that in a formal presentation in a meeting or just an
You can
email?
include it in your notes or in an email to me, that would be great. I just want to make sure that council is aware that council's not blindsided. That's my only reason.
Can we hear what Bush has to say?
Councilor Miller?
Yeah. On one hand, you sat there and said that council wasn't being informed. And then on the second set, you said you're holding it back from us. And you didn't bring it forward. I mean, which is it? You're
kind of twisting things a little bit.
no, I'm not.
So,
What I'm seeing as, because you have been against Roundhouse from day one and you're starting to show a bias.
no, I'm not. I just am protective over the city and transparency. That's it. That's the only thing. If council votes for it, that's great, but I just would like them to keep them informed. That's it. It would have been a simple, we're entering negotiations.
Well, if you wanted this
about that.
informed, if you wanted this informed, you should have brought that MOU out so we could read it.
That's why
Let
it's
us
on
make
this,
the decision.
that's why it's on the agenda to talk about this and protocol. That's why. So I know you use the term cart before the horse, but that's the way I felt, cart before the horse. So I think we're gonna have to agree to disagree.
So are we putting the MOU on the next city council meeting, how are we moving forward?
That's up to council.
Is,
I guess my question is, we're not part of those negotiations part. We need to be separate from that. We tell the city administrator, enter into those negotiations. And he does so by bringing the MOU to us and saying, they're ready to go, let's have these negotiations. And I think that's part of that transparency is bringing the MOU to us and saying, these guys are ready to go. My concern lies following Mr. Miller's statement is that we have a bias, we all have a bias towards Roundhouse. Whether you're in favor of it or not in favor of it, we all have a bias. And we have to acknowledge that bias exists. And I feel like if we supported the Good Life Realty and approved their MOU, and Roundhouse is asking for the same exact MOU, it's not our position to question the establishment. That's what the negotiations are for. And if we want a full faith and credit letter from the bank as part of this MOU, because we have concerns about that,
Right.
then let's do that. But we need to be favorable to businesses and we need to be there. And yes, the Roundhouse is a touchy subject. As soon as you said Roundhouse, my bias instantly engaged. But we have to understand that there is a process to this. And if we did it for one, we got to do it for the other.
And that's my whole thing, the process, it wasn't brought to the attention of council with the Good Life Realty or whatever they are. And so that council didn't have any understanding or knowledge of that and until the MOU was brought. So I'll use an example with an MOU that was sent over to Roundhouse. I don't know but it was sent over and in the MOU, it said adequate power. That's like an open checkbook. So at that time, that person knew that that MOU came over without council's knowledge. So they didn't do anything with it at that point. So because they knew council should be included in that, in the wording. And MOUs are important. It's important that you don't give a company a blank check. So,
We didn't give a blank check, but an MOU is the starting point to negotiate. The blank check is if we had written adequate power into the power agreement. We didn't do that.
right.
And that wasn't the MOU, that was the IGA with the port. Yes, two very different things.
And,
Thank you.
and
So I think we could go around and around on this. I think the question is now, the MOU should be presented to council. Everyone's aware now that Roundhouse is come back around and they've resurfaced. So would council like to see that on the next meeting? Put it on the agenda? I would imagine so. Okay, so then that's what we'll do.
So you're what I feel like push needs to be heard.
Councilman Miller?
No, City Administrator Jordan caught it. That was the intergovernmental agreement with the port that we have on adequate power. Roundhouse only requested 3 megawatts for the first couple years.
Any other discussion?
Well, again, I didn't know where this discussion would lead, so I did ask Scott and Guy from BKI to listen in and answer any questions or concerns council may have about what is actually available for the city to sell. So do you guys want to hear from them?
Yes.
I would like to hear that.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Scott, Guy, take it away.
Yeah, this is Guy Colpron with BKI.
when the original requests came in, and I took a look at the request, and did some background information, I'll give you a short summary of how I see your loading issues. And if I might share the screen here for just a minute.
All right, you should be able to share.
All right, what you should be seeing is the projects marked out on the left, and what you're seeing,
Nothing yet, Guy. We don't see anything.
you don't see anything. Okay, got it. Okay, how's that?
There we go.
Almost.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay,
It's a little small, but we can see it.
it's big on mine.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how I can make that bigger for you at this point. What you see over here, and yes.
Hey,
it is-
Guy, you're showing the nameplate on the side too, so you may want to go to a single screen. I think you're showing two screens at once.
Yeah, and all right, let me do this differently.
I give everybody grace when it comes to technical stuff.
All right, and let me pull this over here. All right, can you see the project sheet?
Yep.
Yes. Little.
Okay. It is small. I apologize for that, but it is a page. And I just wanted to show you for reference, this is what the plans were or are at this point. Now, what I'm going to show you here, this is a picture of your existing transformer and the connections. Now, what's important is this here. This is your, what you call your equipment nameplate. And if you look here, it says 12 OA, 16 FA, 20 FA. And that is the rating of the transformer. So this is an MVA. And so depending on the load that you can carry, what its power factor is, if it's purely resistive, you can pull 12 megawatts from this unit. Now, the two other numbers here that you're seeing, the 16 and the 20, indicate that this transformer was set up for a first stage and a second stage of fans. They are not currently installed on your transformer. So a transformer is very heat dependent, and it has temperature sensors and thermocouples within the unit itself. And so if it is a minus 40 degree day at Cascade Locks, you probably get 20 MVA out of this thing, okay? If it's a 104 degree day, you're probably barely gonna get 12. So being that temperature impacts the loading capability of the transformer, they are built with some margins in them. And I am aware of utilities consistently running these things 120 to 150% over, okay, their nameplate capacity. Now, what they're banking on is that loads never stay the same, okay? When you look at loading of a transformer and you have residential, you're gonna see the load pickup from 6 a.m. to 9. You're gonna see a slight pickup during the noon hour, and then your biggest load's gonna come from 4 to 8 p.m. in the evening. for obvious reasons, people making dinner, going home, doing those types of things. So, and what utilities count on is this load cycle. And so the transformer will warm up, then it will cool down, then it will warm up and cool down. Now, right now, Cascade Lock's peak is 7 megawatts, okay? So you just do the quick math and you say, okay, I got 5 megawatts left in reserve, okay? Now, you could say you have a little bit more than that because of the temperatures. So when somebody like Good Life Home Buyer comes in, and what they've talked about was, and what my conversations with them was that they would like 3 megawatts, and they are willing to put in a control system where if the loading on the city comes up, they are willing to back down their load. So what this means, and what I'm hearing about this is the other folks, what is their name?
Roundhouse.
Roundhouse, thank you. So Roundhouse wants 3 megawatts, and they want it firm. I look at this and I could go, I think it's possible these two could live together, especially if in the contract with Good Life Home Buyer that they are willing to reduce load when residential load comes up. I see that as a very doable thing. Now, there is another option here where you can get more out of this transformer, and that's install fans, okay? A first stage and a second stage of fans, and then you can get up to 20 megawatts. So I look at this and I'm not so worried about your energy at this point with Roundhouse and with Good Life Home Buyer. But those two will use the capacity of this transformer with the fans. If you choose to have them and allow them to grow. So there are some options there for you to decide and what you want to do. Now, the port has asked for some additional loading, which at some point would require an additional transformer. So we've looked at the loading, okay, and felt that the loading, and I'm going to say pre-EDA work, could be satisfied by this transformer. And if you wanted to ensure and allow Roundhouse or Good Life Home Buyer to increase their loading, you could do that by adding fans, and the 45 homes would be in there as well and well covered. So from a loading perspective, I'm not seeing too much concern as long as Roundhouse and Good Life stay in the 3 megawatt region, unless you want to walk forward with the fans on the transformer.
And Guy, we talked, and this again through negotiations, we can put in the power agreements that if they are demanding this power, we need these fans, and we can make them pay for the fans.
And Guy or Jordan, do you know the sound pollution from those fans? Is there a decibel or range?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, they do have some noise levels. I don't know what they are. I would have to reach out to a manufacturer that supplies those and would have to get that information for you. I don't have it off the top of my head.
Thank you.
However, I do think it being the pyramid transformer in its present location next to the freeway, I don't think it's going to make a huge impact.
And then when are we getting the next substation in?
Well, I kind of have this in my report, we're kind of at a standstill. Our next steps are moving forward with the port on the IGA and how much of their funds they're willing to put towards it, because depending on how much they're willing to put towards it, depends on what we actually get done. So until they get themselves figured out, we're unfortunately at a standstill. So I'm hoping with the regular elections over, recall vote tomorrow, things will get figured out, and sometime in July, we can start really having serious conversations. I know their GM is hesitant to move forward on a lot of things until that gets settled. However, we're technically supposed to be done with this project by January of 2025, and I don't know if that's gonna happen at this point.
And that will affect our grant.
We'll just have to let EDA know. I don't think it'll have a major effect on our funding, we just need to keep them updated. Yeah, like the sewer system update was supposed to be done like a year ago, so things happen.
Good question. The loading system, so if the city says to back down, then they'll reduce their load. Are you looking at a meter? And I mean,
Guy and I talked about this, it'd essentially be an automated system guy that we have set up to the transformer.
Yes, that's what the plan is. So there is pretty sophisticated equipment out there to take a look at the loading of the transformer. And then with different metering locations, that can be brought back into the controlling unit, and it's either a signal sent to Good Life Home Builder to back down, or it's a phone call. So, as with anything, if you want to automate it, it costs dollars. And so this could be done manually, it could be done automated, or there's several options in between.
And we'd have something in the power agreement stating, whether it's a phone call or if it's an automated system, they would ramp down their need within X amount of minutes or whatever we set it
And
Correct. Yes, that's
They're two
typically
different
what's done.
products. Yeah, they're two different products. One product can ramp down at will and the other one cannot. Is that correct?
That depends on your power agreement.
at. Yeah.
Right. And we could possibly write in the power agreement that they pay for those things.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There could be.
They're the ones on power.
There could be fines if you overstay your
Yeah.
Exceed your,
if you're,
Right.
until you just to throttle yourself, then
And
you
it-
don't.
Yep.
And I will let you know that some utilities do have automatic disconnects for their clients. So that if the agreement is violated, you just walk over and hit the control button and take them offline.
So
So
if we were ever pushing the transformer too hot because somebody wasn't turning off their power.
We just shut it down.
there would be no safety.
yes, you politely ask them to scale back, and if they don't, they're disconnected.
Mhm. Well, and I know going back to the two different products, with data centers, what they, I would imagine, because they can't fluctuate, they're 24/7. And if the power were to go out or something, they have the generators, so I could just see generators running more frequently if they had to power down for some reason or needed more power. So that's something, and that's a whole nother subject, they've never answered what the decimals are for the generators. So that's, yeah, that's a different subject, so, because they're two different products we're talking about, two different ways they use the power. Anybody have questions? That was a lot of good information.
Thank you.
It makes sense. Yeah.
There are a couple comments from the public in chat. You want me to read them if we're at that point?
Yeah.
I think they're all from Carrie Clute. Wanted to agree with Denise, to need a city plan to align with our vision and available power capacity to help assist with managing our current infrastructure. We shouldn't make plans for the new power before the new substation is complete and actually available. That, in my opinion, is putting the cart before the horse. Asked about the 45 new houses, which I think was answered. And so if Good Life takes 3 megawatts, Roundhouse takes 3 megawatts, and we only have 5, the 45 new houses need power. We wouldn't have any power for any new growth, however long it takes to get a new substation. I'd say yes and no on that. If we can get the fans put in by them, then it solves our issues in the short term.
Roundhouse was 3.6.
Yes, and both of them won't be fully up to 3 megawatts until at least 2025. So they're not gonna go flip the switch on day one and be at 3 megawatts.
When we're also doing these figures at peak power.
Correct, which
Peak
is,
power for us is in the winter.
correct,
when
which
it's
is about
cold,
2.5 months in the winter, yeah.
when it's cold and the
Right.
substation in
Right.
our pyramid plan does
Right.
better. And when
Right.
fans are good because it pushes the air over the cooling structures, but in the cold, it could probably do 13 easy.
What you said, 20.
Well, oh yeah, I'm just saying without.
Yeah,
that,
super
I'm just
cold.
like,
I was hoping it would get something at 40.
We're gonna have to put the fans
Right.
on there, but if you
Right.
blow cold air across something and it's hot, the colder it is,
Right.
and the hotter the thing is, the faster it cools down.
And this is all good because council, everyone's getting educated on this process because none of us are experts on it. So, but we're all gaining really good, solid information.
Guy, I have a question about, the limiting device. Is there no way to like throttle the power that they get, kind of like an internet connection can be reduced? Or is power more you're connected or you're not?
It is more you're connected or you're not. And to reduce power, okay, and I will use Good Life Home Buyer as an example. And from what I can see is they've got 4 trailers, which I would look at being as 4 separate different loads. So if the transformer, and what we look at is the temperature of the oil inside the transformer, and that's what we look at. When that oil temperature comes up, an alarm contact closes, and it would send the signal over to Good Life Home Buyer, and they would be required to remove one of the 4 load banks. Okay, if after a certain period of time, the temperature of that transformer does not come down, a second signal will be sent to them to take another load bank off. And as you can see, this is a process of how we try to mitigate the loading of the transformer. And by looking at the oil temperature. And then if we get to the point where the temperature's not coming down, Good Life Home Buyer comes completely offline. And then you go to the next stage and you take a look at the loading on the transformer, you take a look at the temperature, and maybe your fan set has failed. And we build into control systems fairly sophisticated stuff so that we know when that stuff occurs, so that we can go through and load shed. And you should have a plan within the city of, who gets power first. When you start have to load shed, it's just like a larger utility. They have a load shedding plan, okay? When there's not enough power to go around, they start taking a look at who I can drop. So we call it firm load, non-firm load. Okay, and you pay for it. Okay, so if you're firm load, you pay a higher contract rate for the energy. If you're non-firm, that means you understand that when the power has been restricted, that you're one of the first ones to go offline. So there's a whole bunch of ways utilities deal with this kind of stuff. That's one of them. And the more sophisticated utilities, it's all automated. Okay.
Yeah, and we're not anticipating that would be an issue in this instance with the EDA funding that's coming in and the substations that we're looking at and the redundancy that we're looking. Your current demands are going to be potentially into the future, based off of what we're hearing from both the city and even with these two projects, in addition to what the port is looking for, you guys will still have excess capacity for use for the system in the city.
Yeah, and the proposals that we put forward, I put several options together to meet the needs, and the most reliable option would be to purchase used transformer and then take the existing pyramid transformer and move it across the street to the BPA substation. So you would have 2 transformers and significant loading opportunity for your future.
Guy, can you share that first photo again of the map out? Like I said, I've been waiting for kind of more firm details and answers from the port before this really got presented to council. I didn't want to present something and then re-present a different change. But since we're having this discussion, might as well give an overview of where we're at and kind of at least what the city and BKI is presenting to the port.
All right, can everybody see the map now?
Yeah, so essentially this down here is where the parcel we just bought. The new roughly 35 megawatt or rebuilt 35 megawatt transformer would go here. The pyramid one would move across the highway. We build, the city would cover costs going all the way out to the port. Once it got to the port property line, the port would cover it, but getting it to essentially to 29 megawatt, that 29 megawatts could run up to the port would cost more than money we have. So we have asked the port to essentially give us $1.1 million additional on top of the grant to help us get the megawatt, the transformer, and upgrade the lines to their property. They would still pay for anything within their property lines, but we need an additional $1 million to get the project to where everybody's happy and would not require us to do this again in 5 years. Maybe again in 15 years, but not 5 years. Because the demand for energy is only going up.
And I think going under the freeway.
No, everything's going up.
Really?
Yes, it's a whole lot cheaper to go over. A whole lot cheaper.
Is that building, what is that building?
That's Schneider.
This one, this is Dennis Snyder's property.
Okay.
This is Bear Mountain Forest or Bear Mountain Products. This is Forest Lane. Just off is the bridge that I think opened a week before I started here.
Show me where the pyramid station is now.
It is right here, is this thing, right here.
And it needs to move so they're all together.
It would just make maintenance easier, yeah. And plus it would give Dennis his property back.
Where is the good light going in at?
They are actually going right here, or right there.
And the fans, are they giant? Is there room to add the fans?
I doubt they'd be any louder than a semi-truck that's on the highway.
Well, it's always good to ask and see what it is, because there is an entire subdivision right on the outside of that. That's green trees.
It's a pretty good distance away.
Right.
Yeah.
But I know like with Bear Mountain, because that subdivision has a clear view. The subdivision that around that whole ridge, when Bear Mountain was experiencing some troubles, it was squeaking and loud, people couldn't sleep. So I don't think it hurts to ask what the decimals are.
That's a zoning thing. And if they're zoned industrial, that's. Yeah,
They
it's
fixed
kind
it.
of, I know that they fixed it, but I'm saying,
Right,
if there was a big smelting plant out there and there was loud noises all throughout the night, they're in the designated industrial zone. We don't really have like, as long as they don't get over what the industrial zone's designated
right,
sound is.
right,
And I mean,
and you don't know, we don't know.
we don't know what it would be, but
Right,
fans aren't,
right,
fans
And
aren't.
I mean,
valid.
that's partly on the homeowner knowing that, hey, I bought a house that's
Near the
within
industrial
earshot of the industrial zone. That's on you, man.
I imagine there are still limits, industrial zone decibel limits.
Oh, yeah.
and
Oh, yeah, I'm
say-
sure
right,
it's written in
right,
our
right.
zoning code, I'm just saying like,
right.
worrying about fans when you're
Okay.
dealing with it's like the Bear Mountain facility is like pulping wood and doing a whole bunch of
But I think
loud
they're,
machinery stuff.
right, but I think they're valid questions to ask.
Oh, no, I'm not saying it's
you
not,
know?
it's good to know that, it's good to know, but I doubt that it would ever reach the level that would make it, where we go, oh, no, we can't put fans to add more power. 'Cause would you rather have some people have some fan noises in the middle of winter? Because the power level got high enough, the load got high enough that, and we needed a little bit more power to go around? Or start shutting off power to customers?
Well, it's just a matter of having the knowledge, what it is, how it's gonna be.
Oh, I'm not
You know,
denying.
that's the only reason why, because an example would be back east, Midwest, data center went in. None of the council talked about sound, they just, something that they didn't talk about. There are subdivisions like 2 miles away, across the fields, 2 miles away. And they no longer can sit outside and have a barbecue without music being on. They play music 24/7 in their house because they can't go out and enjoy it. Because the council never talked about noise. So all I'm saying is that in order to make good decisions, it's good to have good information.
I'm not saying
Yeah.
that it's not good to know. I'm
Right.
just saying that for it to get to the level that would cause an issue would have to be, I mean, it has to be we'd have to violate our zoning laws, which are also designated by state, and we don't really have control over like what's allowed in those kind of things,
So Mayor, we have 15 minutes left till our self-imposed 10 p.m.
Yes, we do. So in interest of time, is there any other comments or? It's quick.
It is quick, I just wanna say the noise and all that, I can appreciate that. But you need equality in our community. I live right across from DOT and nobody worries about their generator that comes on in the winter or their trucks that go beep, beep, beep all night when they're doing our roads and stuff. So I think we need to be making money, you know, over the noise. We have a problem on Forest Lake.
Yeah. So it's just about gathering knowledge. That's it. I wanna make sure everyone has informed decisions. That's it. So I think, is there anything else to add?
No,
We-
I think
we've got
Guy
15
and
minutes.
Scott have waited long enough.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate
Thank you
it.
a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Okay, 15 minutes.
I will be really quick and pin ourselves back up here. We lost budget at some point, a while back, probably about a half hour ago. I'll be quick on mine, like I mentioned, the EDA grant, we're kind of at a standstill until, Port gets themselves situated. I did reach out to McKed to see if they'd be willing to help as like kind of administer the grant itself, like they've done with, all of our other grants. It's actually in our finance policy that any grant over $10,000, which is nothing, is supposed to be overseen by McKed, and I don't know why it didn't happen. They did propose an IGA of roughly about $30,000, which can be paid for out of the electrical fund. That would be separate. We don't have the room in the grant to pay for it, but I'll be talking to EDA, see if that's something we can do. Strategic plan, U of O is reviewing, summarizing data. They will present it to steering committee. Steering committee will review it, make final recommendations with a rough date to present to council on July 24th. I did a kickoff meeting with the company to do the rate study back on May 31st. They requested quite a bit of data to start with. That is due June 23rd, so I'm working on that. The trees at the cemetery are down. They just need to grind the stumps. I actually think it looks fantastic, but that's just me. Photo radar. I have reached out to the undersheriff to discuss photo radar on Forest Lane and how that would work. I don't know if council is expecting money to come in from it, but it would be a lot of work. It would be more for our municipal courts. We probably have to pay more for the county. It does have to be reviewed and approved by a sworn law enforcement officer, so we have to get the county involved anyways. Listen, on my goal is at least get something in place, and if all we get out of it is slower speeds on Forest Lane, fantastic. I don't think it needs to be a financial item for us. County clerk position, we held interviews on Thursday the 8th, a couple of good candidates. I have been doing background checks and reference checks. I am hoping to get an offer put out this week with a start date of July 5th. LOC, Small Cities Luncheon. We are Region 8. We are actually hosting this quarter's luncheon this Thursday, the 15th from 11 to 1. I meant to remind all of you this earlier, but it's been a hell of a couple months. So I'm reminding you now. It's here in this room at 11 a.m. on Thursday. So, yeah, I know. I don't. It wouldn't matter if I told you 3 months ago. It wouldn't have mattered because it's 11 a.m. Oregon City County Managers Association is having their summer conference in Pendleton, July 19th through the 21st. I will be attending via scholarship. The city will seem to cover the hotel, but the actual event is covered through a scholarship. I have received several complaints about 1080 Forest Lane down in the bottom of Shahala. I have looked at it, I took pictures, we sent letters out to the property owners, and we will continue to follow up. A couple items not on here. We're closed Tuesday, July 4th for July 4th. It's 4th of July. Crime stats are in your report. Again, it's been a heck of a couple months. As soon as budget's approved, I'll get back to getting this guy updated for you. John did initial reviews of overgrown grass, sent out 22 letters today. We'll do another review at the beginning of August, and that letter will come from me with a little more oomph to it. The school district is handing out lunches, actually breakfast and lunches. They're doing 4 separate stops over by the affordable housing apartments over here, and then 3 of them along Forest Lane. They'll be here 15-minute stops from, I think, 8:15, 8:30, 8:45, and 9. So just a heads up, there'll be a little school bus handing out lunches starting June 26th.
Through the summer.
Through August 11th, I think. Yes. Yeah. Final item, staff is approaching me to see if a 4-day work week is something we could do. So I'm kind of looking at that. Again, I'm presenting to council for approval if it's something even feasible, but it is kind of a side project I've been looking at.
Discussion.
It is, yeah. I think staff would like it sooner than later, but it requires some research, so. Yep. There's Butch.
Mine's back. Good.
There we go. So that's all I got.
And then the last one we added, Main Street. Do you want to talk about?
Yeah, just the mayor and I talked about having Denise be the main contact for the Oregon Main Street program instead of me, because again, I got a lot going on. I get emails from them. I get, I don't know, half a dozen every day, different members emailing back and forth with questions, topics coming up, and I usually just file them into the Main Street folder and I'll read them later.
Trying to loosen is.
It's like a downtown association.
They have a lot of money potential.
Yes,
For
they do.
improving our downtown and lots of things.
Yeah. We joined at the city level, which is free to join. You have to join to get any money, and I know there's a group working on downtown business association, that we can move it over to them when they are alive.
But I think it might help Jordan, if we can take one thing off his plate. Denise has knowledge working with Main Street programming, so if it's good with council
That's just a consensus.
consensus.
Oh,
All right,
Yes.
that's, so there's one thing off your plate.
Yay, not that I'm doing anyways, but yay.
Okay, let's go to, let's
Now I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was eating at the back. It
It
was, yes, it was.
It's like, I'm gonna get to it, and I'm like, well, let's just take it off your plate. All right, so we've got 8 minutes. We get through mayor and city council comments. All right, is Butch back on?
Budget back on, yes, Councilwoman back on.
Council Miller?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, you're up. We've got 8 minutes.
All right. Well, I appreciate staff getting everything online so I can read it while I'm out here. Evidently the lightning storm in the area is messing things up though. Let's see. One of the things that I noticed going over the packet that really caught my eye was a travel reimbursement for the mayor that was $331.17. And I talked to the city administrator about it, and he said that they were 3 different trips. With one of them being back in March. So I think we need to address travel reimbursements and how they are submitted. We need to do it in a timely manner so they don't go 3 months down the road. I think we need to put a time limit on when you ask for your reimbursement. Yeah, because it also helps with our budgeting when we have all these people asking us for money. So that's the one thing I wanted to bring up.
Okay,
And-
anything,
That's about it.
all right, thank you. Councilman Crompton?
Thank everybody for our quiet and vigorous discussion tonight. It was good. Trying to flush out all the ideas. I want to thank our Radcomp for coming and presenting, and our engineers Scott and Guy for sticking around till the end to answer our questions. I appreciate everything staff does, and as a person who works a 4-day work week, I love it. So I'm sure we can try to figure something out.
Councilman Kelly?
I want to give a quick thanks to Mr. Miller for letting me know about House Bill 2095. My students did a final project based on it, and the projects were pretty interesting and fun to look at, along with other bills that went through the legislature, but that one specifically. I wanted to echo the idea of working on a salary schedule. I think that's an incredibly valid and needed thing for our city. And then I already addressed the proposals. I wanted to echo that the cemetery looked amazing when I drove by this morning. Thank you to BKI and Radcomp for the presentations. And that's about it.
Again, thank you for your presentations and for everybody who comes, and Brenda, your insightful comments and experience. And I just want to acknowledge that it is Global Pride Month, and I welcome our LGBTQ community and visitors as well, and acknowledge some of the difficulties that people are having. And I want to say that with the planning intern, it sounds like it's money, but it is in the end saves money. If there were projects and code changes, much less than a planner and a lot more work can be done than we might expect prior to giving it to a planner. And I wanted to point out that I still am advocating for council members. We are busy, we have budget meetings, but if there was a passion in the committee that you thought you might want to be a part of, how we go through the process of creating maybe a park and rec committee or community events community that would be in charge of that funding, or just look down the road with that. And I do plan to go to planning in July, talk to Kathy about that, about sharing this information. And that is the most thing I want to thank you all for all the work you're doing.
Okay, I'm just gonna piggyback on the thank yous, so I don't go through them all again. I went to the Hood County School District meeting at the Cascade School June 7th, and asked about them doing duplication out in the front lot near Wanapop. So we'll see if I hear back on that. I'd like to get together with you and talk about the beautification committee and how we can get that started, because I really don't know how to do that, but I would like to do that. And I joined Bernard Seeger's team, picking up trash out there, and that's very rewarding. And I just figured if I'm asking for beautification, that I better do some myself. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you to staff for putting these amazing packets together. Thank you to Radcomp for coming and staying so long, and BKI. Brenda, thank you also for attending. Everyone that commented, for Butch attending from a distance, that's great. And then also all the comments, they're really good, valid points. And so I really, really appreciate that. And it feels good to have a discussion on why we view it one way and then how someone views it another way. So I want to encourage that. Don't ever feel like you can't speak up. So I encourage that. And with that said, last thing, I did go to the grade school. They had their alumni come, and so we lined this. We had pom-poms, and we the grads. I think there were 5 kids that came, and so the kids and the teachers, we all lined the hallways. And Jeremiah Blue and Janetta showed up. It was great. There wasn't very many adults, so but it felt really good, and the kids were super excited. So. And that's it.
Fun fact, I took my sons to the graduation, like where the seniors are hanging out,
Yeah.
and Keegan pointed out all the members that came to the
Yes.
school, so.
He was very, everyone was like clapping, and it was a lot of fun. Good. All right, we need a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn, is there?
I motion that we adjourn this meeting.
I second. Oh, nice word.
All right, roll call vote.
Councilmember Compton,
Aye.
Evelyn Baker, Farrell,
Aye.
Keller,
Aye.
Miller,
Did we lose him?
No, he's still there.
Mayor Fallon.
Aye.
All right, look at that. There's 1 minute to spare. All right,
Drive
thanks,
safely.
Butch. All right, thank
Yeah.
you.